My mother-in-law tried to ruin my career until I found her secret diary. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. It started with a whisper, the kind you can't quite prove, but you feel in your bones. I was standing in the break room, stirring sugar into my coffee, when I overheard two colleagues murmuring my name. "Didn't expect her to mess up like that," one of them said. Their eyes darted to me before they quickly changed the subject. The thing was, I hadn't messed up. Not on that project. I'd worked late nights for weeks, making sure every report was flawless. But 2 days later, my manager called me in. His voice was tight, his words carefully chosen. "We've had some concerns about your performance." At home, I vented to my husband, Daniel. He rubbed my back, telling me it was probably just office politics. That's when his mother, Mary Ann, chimed in from the kitchen. "Sweetheart, maybe they're right. You've been distracted lately." She smiled, that saccharine smile she always wore when she was about to say something venomous. "You know, if you focused more on family than chasing promotions, you might be happier." It stung, but I brushed it off until little things began piling up. An important client email I swore I sent never made it. A file I needed went missing from the shared drive. HR called me in about a formal complaint from a coworker, one I'd helped land their own promotion last year. Every time I came home upset, Mary Ann was there with a glass of wine and some well-timed advice. "You can't trust everyone at work. Maybe they know something about you don't." She'd tilt her head, feigning sympathy, but there was always that flicker in her eyes, satisfaction. Then came the blow. My manager told me the promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years was going to someone else. His reason? "We need someone more reliable." That night, I sat in the living room long after Daniel went to bed, replaying every moment from the past month. And then it hit me, someone had been feeding information about me to my workplace. Someone close enough to know the details. The next morning, as I passed the guest room, I noticed Mary Ann's purse half open on the bed. And inside, peeking out from under a silk scarf, was a leather-bound diary with my name written on a sticky note. I froze. Why would my mother-in-law have a diary with my name on it? My hand was already reaching for it before I realized, and what I saw on the first page made my blood run cold. Entry 1. She'll never see it coming. My fingers trembled as I flipped to the next page. The neat, looping handwriting was almost elegant, like it belonged in a love letter, but the words cut like a blade. "Met with Claire today. Told her that OP was talking about leaving the company. She'll plant the seed with HR. By the time it grows, there won't be much of a career left to save." Claire. My coworker Claire. The same Claire who'd stopped inviting me to lunch 2 months ago, who now couldn't look me in the eye during meetings. I flipped again. Deleted that draft email from her account before she noticed. It was risky, but worth it. The client will think she's careless. Daniel thinks I'm helping her by keeping her grounded. He's so blind. I could barely breathe. My heart pounded, so hard I thought she might hear it from downstairs. This wasn't just casual gossip or meddling. This was sabotage, calculated and systematic. There were entries for every week. Some short, almost mocking. Told HR she's been coming in late. Easy to do when I accidentally move her alarm clock back. Others were long, detailed plans that read like battle strategies. If she loses this promotion, maybe she'll finally realize she's not cut out for this. Then Daniel can focus on a wife who knows her place. I slammed the book shut, while rising in my throat. My mother-in-law didn't just dislike me. She wanted me destroyed. I shoved the diary back exactly as I'd found it, every muscle screaming to run, to scream, to confront her right there in the kitchen over her smug smile. But I knew better. She was too good at twisting stories, too good at turning people against me. I needed proof, more proof than just these entries. Because if I confronted her now, she'd cry to Daniel, claim I was paranoid, or losing it, and he'd probably believe her. That night at dinner, I sat across from her, forcing myself to meet her gaze. She asked me how work was going, that same syrupy tone coding every word. I smiled back, masking the rage boiling beneath my skin. Because now, I wasn't just surviving her games. I was about to start playing mine. And the first move would happen before the week was out, when I caught her red-handed. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her handwriting, smooth, perfect loops spelling out my downfall like it was a game. By sunrise, I had a plan. Step 1, give her an opening. Step 2, catch her in it. At work, I drafted a fake email to my manager about a personal opportunity in another city. It was vague, but just tempting enough to suggest I might be leaving my position. Instead of sending it, I saved it in my drafts folder, the same drafts folder she had mentioned in her diary. If she truly had access to my account somehow, she wouldn't be able to resist. That evening, I accidentally left my laptop on the kitchen counter before heading upstairs to shower. I made sure the screen was still glowing with my email inbox open. It wasn't even 5 minutes before I heard the faint creak of a chair and the gentle tap-tap of keys. I peeked down the stairs, holding my breath. There she was, Mary Ann, glasses perched on her nose, reading my emails with an expression of cold satisfaction. She glanced over her shoulder once, but I stayed hidden. Then she opened my drafts. Her lips curled into the faintest smirk. She deleted the email. I caught the exact moment she closed the laptop and sipped her wine like nothing had happened. I recorded the whole thing on my phone from the shadows of the stairwell. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The next morning, I checked my account. The draft was gone. My pulse spiked. Proof. But before I could decide what to do next, something else happened. At lunch, Claire cornered me in the break room. "So, you're thinking about leaving?" she asked, crossing her arms. I froze. "Where did you hear that?" She raised an eyebrow. "Marian called me last night." My stomach dropped. She wasn't just reading my emails, she was already using them. And if she knew I was onto her, I didn't even want to think about what her next move might be. That night, when I got home, her diary wasn't where I'd left it. It was sitting on my pillow, open, and the newest entry had only 4 words. I stared at those 4 words for what felt like hours. She's starting to suspect. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. She knew. She had seen through my smile at dinner, my 2 casual questions. When I walked into the kitchen, she was there, calmly chopping vegetables, humming under her breath. "Rough day?" she asked without looking up. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every instinct screamed at me to get out of that room. That night, I barely touched my dinner. Daniel noticed. "You okay?" he asked, concern lining his brow. I forced a small smile. "Work stuff." I didn't dare tell him the truth yet, not without enough evidence to make it undeniable. Because here's the thing about Mary Ann. She could cry on command. I'd seen her turn a family argument into a full-blown pity party for herself in under 3 minutes, complete with trembling hands and quivering lips. The next morning, my proof became urgent. When I opened my work email, there was a message from HR. "We need to discuss multiple complaints from your colleagues." Complaints? Multiple? The meeting was humiliating. Allegations of missed deadlines, inappropriate comments, even aggressive behavior in meetings. None of it was true. I asked for names. They refused to disclose them. My stomach churned. This was exactly what she wanted. When I got home, I found her alone in the living room, her diary on the coffee table, open like an invitation. I couldn't resist. I glanced at the latest entry. "Tomorrow, she'll get the final warning. Daniel will think she's cracking under pressure." Perfect. My hands shook with rage. She wasn't just sabotaging my career. She was laying the groundwork to destroy my marriage too. I closed the diary quietly and sat down across from her. "I know what you're doing," I said, my voice low but steady. She looked up slowly, meeting my gaze with a faint smile. "Do you?" Her tone wasn't defensive. It was amused, like she was daring me to try and stop her. And that's when I realized I wasn't up against a meddling relative. I was up against someone who enjoyed the game. The only question now was, who would make the next move? That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the hum of the fridge downstairs somehow louder than my own thoughts. She wanted me cornered. She wanted Daniel doubting me, my workplace ready to toss me out like I was a liability. And she was so sure she'd win. Good. Let her be sure. By morning, I had a plan. It wasn't just about catching her this time. It was about making sure she couldn't wriggle out of it with tears and trembling hands. I needed her words, her actions, her face caught in the act. At work, I created a new confidential folder in my email, an elaborate fake filled with fabricated documents, a proposal for a high-profile project, notes about potential clients, even a fake email chain with my manager about future leadership opportunities. None of it was real, but it looked real. And then I deliberately left my laptop open again at home, forgotten, on the dining table, with that folder sitting right there. I also placed a small hidden camera in the bookshelf across the room. My pulse was erratic as I tested it. If she found it, the game was over. That evening, I made an excuse to run to the store, leaving the house unlocked. When I came back 20 minutes later, the laptop was closed. Upstairs in my room, I checked the footage. There she was, sitting in my chair, clicking through my files. Her lips moved as she read, and I caught enough to make out words like promotion and client meeting. Then she pulled out her phone, dialing someone. Claire. I'd recognize that name in any tone. Yes, it's true, she said into the phone, a hint of triumph in her voice. Tell the team before she does. She's going to jump ship. I sat there in the dark, watching her leave the room like she'd just planted a bomb. And maybe she had, because the next morning, my manager called me in again. Someone had told the entire department I was planning to resign. And when I walked back to my desk, Claire was already there, smiling like she'd won something. But what neither of them knew was that I now had everything I needed to strike back. Everything, except Marianne's diary. It was gone. Panic hit me like ice water. The diary wasn't just missing. The drawer where she kept it was empty, as if it had never existed. My heart raced as I searched every corner of the guest room, checking under the bed, behind the nightstand, even inside her luggage. Nothing. Downstairs, she was sipping tea, flipping through a magazine like it was any other morning. I stood in the doorway, studying her face. She didn't look nervous. She looked satisfied. Lose something? She asked without glancing up. I forced a neutral tone. No. But inside, my stomach twisted. If she'd hidden the diary, she might also destroy it, wiping away the most damning evidence I had. Without it, my case against her was weaker. The video of her snooping was good, but paired with the diary, it would have been undeniable. I needed that diary back. The rest of the day at work was chaos. Claire avoided eye contact, but whispers followed me from cubicle to cubicle. My manager's patience was wearing thin. One more incident, and I'd be out. That night, I heard movement downstairs around midnight. I crept to the top of the stairs, peering down into the dim light. Marianne was in the living room, sliding something into her oversized leather handbag. My pulse quickened. I recognized the corner of the diary's cover before it disappeared inside. She was leaving early in the morning. I knew because she'd mentioned a weekend with friends. If that diary went with her, I might never see it again. I went back to bed, but my mind was already racing. There was no way to take it from her bag without her noticing now. I needed to make her give it to me, willingly or not. As I lay there in the dark, an idea began to take shape. Risky, reckless. But if it worked, I wouldn't just get the diary back. I'd make her incriminate herself in the process. And for the first time in weeks, the thought of her smile didn't scare me. It made me smile back. The plan formed while I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. If Marianne wouldn't hand me the diary, I'd make her read from it herself, without even realizing she was doing it. The next morning, over coffee, I told Daniel I wanted to host a small family dinner before Marianne left for her trip. Just us, I said sweetly. I feel like we've been distant lately. He agreed instantly, relieved I was making an effort. I spent the day at work laying the groundwork. I called in a favor from IT and had them send me a fabricated security notice for my work email, claiming a breach had been detected and that any suspicious activity would be reported directly to my manager. I made sure it would land in my inbox right before dinner, and that Marianne would see it. When evening came, the table was set, candles lit, wine poured. Marianne arrived from her room dressed like she was attending a gala, diary-sized handbag in hand. Halfway through the meal, I excused myself to grab something from the kitchen and left my phone, screen lit up, right next to her. On it was a text I'd sent myself from a fake number. Don't forget to copy the diary entries before you leave. They're pure gold. I didn't even make it to the kitchen before I heard the faint click of my phone being picked up. When I returned, Marianne's expression was carefully neutral, but her hand was inside her bag. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Oh, you brought it. Her eyes flickered. Brought what? The diary, I said casually, glancing at Daniel. The one you've been keeping about me. Daniel frowned. Diary? What diary? And there it was, the split second where she had to choose between denying it completely or defending what was in it. She chose wrong. It's not what you think, she said quickly, pulling it out. You wouldn't understand. Read it, I said, my voice sharp. Daniel's gaze bounced between us. Mom, what's in there? Marianne's lips tightened. Fine. She opened to a random page and started reading. and within 30 seconds, Daniel's face had gone pale. But she didn't know yet. The whole thing was being recorded from a camera hidden behind the wine bottles. Marianne's voice was steady at first, as if she thought she could spin the words into something harmless. Told Claire to mention her plans to HR again today. Daniel still thinks I'm protecting her from herself. Soon, the company will have no choice but to cut her loose. Daniel's fork clattered onto his plate. Mom, what the hell is this? She hesitated, then flipped to another page, as if doubling down could somehow make her case stronger. Deleted her client presentation. She'll panic, and I can help her rewrite it. The weaker she looks, the more I can guide Daniel towards someone better for him. I watched the words sink into him like stones in water. His jaw tightened, his eyes darting between her and me. Better for me? Daniel's voice was low, dangerous. You mean not my wife? Marianne's mask cracked, but only for a second. Daniel, I was doing this for you. She's been toxic to your future, holding you back. I cut her off. You've been poisoning my career for months. Do you know how many people at work believe I'm incompetent because of you? How close I am to losing my job? Daniel turned to me, guilt flickering across his face. Why didn't you tell me? Because she's good at this, I said, my voice trembling. You would have believed her over me. She knows exactly how to make herself look like the victim. Marianne slammed the diary shut, her voice rising. You're twisting this. That book was therapy. Just words, nothing more. I slid my phone across the table, the screen playing back the footage from my hidden camera, her rifling through my laptop, making that call to Claire. Her color drained. You filmed me? Yes, I said, my voice like steel. And tomorrow, HR will see it, along with this diary. Daniel pushed his chair back, the sound scraping through the thick silence. Mom, you need to leave. Marianne's eyes locked on mine. No more pretense, just raw, venomous hatred. This isn't over. And for the first time, I believed her. The next morning, I barely slept, my nerves coiled tight. I carried Marianne's diary in my bag like a live explosive, along with my phone loaded with the footage. If HR didn't take me seriously this time, I was finished. The moment I walked into the building, I could feel it. The whispers, the sideways glances. Claire was at the coffee machine, pretending not to notice me, but I caught the smug little lift of her eyebrows. Not today, I thought. Inside the HR office, I sat across from Mr. Fallon, the same man who'd called me in for every complaint meeting. You wanted to discuss the ongoing allegations? He began, already sounding weary. I placed the diary on the table, opened to the entry about deleting my client presentation, then hit play on the video. Marianne's voice filled the room, crystal clear. Tell the team before she does. She's going to jump ship. Fallon's eyes widened. He leaned forward, replaying the clip, reading the entry twice. This is your mother-in-law. Yes, and she's been working with Claire. He stiffened. Do you have proof of Claire's involvement? Check her call logs from that day, I said, my voice steady. You'll see a call from Marianne minutes after she accessed my laptop. He excused himself, and 20 minutes later, Claire was called in. I waited in the hallway, heart pounding, hearing muffled voices escalate into sharp tones. She emerged pale, refusing to look at me. Fallon returned. Effective immediately, all allegations against you are dropped. Claire is on suspension, pending investigation. And he hesitated. You should know, if you want to pursue legal action against your mother-in-law, the company will cooperate. Walking back to my desk, I felt a surge of relief, but it was short-lived. My phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. You think you've won? I have copies. More than enough to end you. I didn't need to guess who it was. Marianne had just gone underground, and I had no idea what she was planning next. The message wouldn't stop burning in my mind. I have copies. Copies of what? The diary? Emails? Something worse? By the time I got home, my pulse was pounding in my ears. Daniel was in the living room, his phone in hand, his expression unreadable. We need to talk, he said. My stomach dropped. What's going on? He held up his phone. Mom sent me an email. Screenshots. Messages from you to someone named Evan. She says you've been having an affair. What? My voice cracked. Daniel, I don't even know an Evan. She says you deleted the messages after sending them. She even sent timestamps. It hit me like ice water. She'd faked them. It wouldn't be hard if she had copies of my old emails or access to my accounts. She'd done it before. And now she was turning the only person I thought I could trust against me. Daniel rubbed his temples. I don't know what to believe anymore. This whole thing has been exhausting. I felt the walls closing in. She was winning again. Not through work this time, but by dismantling my marriage piece by piece. And if Daniel walked away, she'd have exactly what she wanted, proof, in her mind, that I wasn't worthy of him. That night, while Daniel slept in the guest room, I sat on the floor of our bedroom with my laptop open. If she wanted war, she'd get war. I pulled up my phone records, my email logs, every scrap of metadata I could find. I'd prove every one of those messages was fake. Around 2 a.m., I found something. The timestamps in her screenshots didn't match my phone's activity log. She'd fabricated them using an old template from my email drafts folder. It was enough to clear my name, if I could make Daniel see it before she spun another lie. But before I could even plan my next move, a new text came through, not from Marianne this time, but from an unknown number. If you want the truth about her, meet me tomorrow. Alone. And attached was a blurry photo of Marianne meeting with someone I recognized from work. I didn't tell Daniel about the message. If there was even a chance this was a setup, I needed to handle it myself. The next morning, I called in sick, grabbed my phone, and drove to the address they sent. A half-empty coffee shop on the edge of town, the kind of place where conversations died before they reached the next table. A man in his late 30s sat in the corner, a baseball cap pulled low. He waved me over. I recognized him instantly. Paul, an ex-employee from my company who'd been fired last year for performance issues. Rumor had it Marianne had been involved somehow, but I'd never believed it. You don't have much time, he said quietly. She's planning something bigger. What she's done so far. That's just groundwork. I sat down, every muscle tense. What are you talking about? He slid a flash drive across the table. Emails, call logs, voice recordings. She's been building a case against you for months. One that makes you look like you've been leaking company secrets to a competitor. My stomach dropped. That's insane. I've never. She's good, he cut in. Makes it all look legitimate. I know because she did the same to me. You're Claire? She wasn't her only inside contact. There are 3 more at your company. People feeding her information for favors. I felt sick. Why me? Why go this far? Paul leaned back. Because she wants control. Over Daniel. Over you. And she thinks if she ruins you professionally and personally, you'll have no choice but to leave him. Then she gets him back under her thumb. I stared at the flash drive. Why help me? He gave a humorless laugh. Because no one helped me, and I lost everything. You might still have a shot. Before I could ask more, he stood, tossed a few bills on the table, and left. I drove home with my hands clenched around the steering wheel. If what Paul said was true, Marianne's reach was far bigger than I'd imagined. And now, I had proof, but proof that could destroy not just her, but people inside my own workplace. When I got home, Daniel was waiting in the doorway, holding his phone. His face was pale. She just called me, he said. She's on her way here, and she's bringing a lawyer. The sound of Marianne's heels on our driveway was like a countdown to detonation. She didn't knock. She never knocked. Just swept in with a man in a dark suit trailing behind her. Daniel. Opie, she said, her voice syrupy but laced with smugness. This is Mr. Callahan, my attorney. Callahan adjusted his tie, giving me a cold, assessing look. My client is here to serve notice. You are to cease all forms of harassment and defamation immediately, or we will proceed with a civil suit. I actually laughed, short, sharp, and humorless. Defamation? That's rich, coming from the woman who's been sabotaging my career for months. Marianne's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And where's your proof? Every instinct told me to throw Paul's flash drive on the table, to hit play on my recordings, to end her game right here. But my gut twisted. If I did it now, in front of her lawyer, she'd have time to spin it, twist the narrative before HR and the police saw it. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened a single video file, the one from the dinner table, where she'd read her own diary entries aloud. You want proof? I asked softly, turning the screen toward Daniel. He watched in silence, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. Marianne's lawyer leaned forward, frowning. Where did you get this? Oh, that's just one piece, I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. And trust me, I've got plenty more. Marianne's composure faltered for the first time. This is out of context, she snapped. No, I said, my voice firm. This is you. In your own words. Daniel stood slowly. Mom, I think you should leave. Her eyes narrowed. If you think this is over, you're a fool, she said, her voice low and dangerous. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And as she walked out, her lawyer trailing behind, I realized something chilling. She wasn't bluffing. Whatever she had planned next, it was going to be nuclear. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new text from an unknown number. You have 48 hours before everything I've collected goes public. The number glared back at me from my phone screen, faceless and taunting. 48 hours. 2 days before Marianne's so-called evidence went public. Evidence I knew was fabricated, but which could still ruin me if she dumped it into the right hands. I didn't sleep that night. My laptop was open on the dining table, Paul's flash drive plugged in, files sprawled across my desktop like a battlefield. Emails between Marianne and her contacts inside my company. Call logs to Claire and 2 other names I recognized, both managers. Snippets of recorded calls where my name was dragged through the mud. But the most damning file wasn't about me at all. It was about others, patterns of sabotage spanning years, people she'd quietly destroyed or forced out. Paul hadn't been her first victim. Not by a long shot. By sunrise, I had a plan. It wasn't enough to clear my name. I had to burn her network to the ground. And I had less than 2 days to do it. First, I called Fallon from HR. I have documents you need to see. Today. And you might want to loop in legal. Then I reached out to Paul. You said there were others. Can you get them to talk? By noon, I had 3 former employees on a group call, each with their own horror story. Different industries. Different companies. Same tactics. Same Marianne. That evening, I came home to find Daniel pacing the living room. She called me again, he said. She says you're framing her. That this is all some twisted revenge fantasy. Daniel, I said quietly, I have proof she's been doing this for years. Not just to me. She's built a system for it. He froze. What do you mean a system? Before I could answer, a car pulled up outside. Headlights swept across the walls. I peeked through the curtain, and there she was, sitting in the passenger seat, talking to someone I recognized instantly. My boss. They were walking toward my front door. The knock came like a hammer against my ribs. Daniel opened the door before I could stop him, and there they were, Marianne, perfectly composed, and Mr. Harlan, my direct manager, his expression unreadable. Daniel, Marianne said sweetly, we thought it would be better to handle this face-to-face. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, Harlan following like a shadow. I crossed my arms. What exactly are we handling? Harlan's eyes met mine. Your mother-in-law has brought forward some serious allegations, documents, messages, financial transactions. If these are real, you could be facing termination and possible legal action. My blood boiled. And you came to my house for this. Marianne's smile sharpened. I thought you'd appreciate the chance to explain yourself before things escalate. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we should all just... No, I cut in, my voice like glass. Let's do this now. I walked to the dining table, pulled out my laptop, and opened a folder labeled Final. I turned the screen toward Harlan. Before you look at whatever she's brought, you should see this. The first file was an email from Marianne to Claire, instructing her to delete my client presentation. The next was a call log, time-stamped minutes after Marianne had accessed my laptop, followed by an audio clip of her telling Claire I was jumping ship. Harlan's brows furrowed. Where did you get this? I have more, I said, clicking to a spreadsheet. Names, dates, companies. She's been doing this for years. Different targets. Same playbook. Paul Jenkins, fired last year. She orchestrated that, too. Daniel leaned over Harlan's shoulder, his face pale. Marianne stayed still, but I saw the twitch in her jaw. This is fabricated, she said quickly. She's trying to destroy me. I clicked one last file, the dinner footage. Marianne's own voice, reading from her diary. The color drained from Harlan's face. This is serious, he muttered. Marianne took a step toward me, eyes cold. You think this will save you? You have no idea what you've started. I held her gaze. No, Marianne. What you've started ends tomorrow. Harlan stood abruptly. I'll be taking this to HR and legal immediately. He left without another word. Marianne lingered in the doorway, staring at me with pure, unmasked hatred. 48 hours just became 24. And then she was gone. The next 24 hours were a blur of calls, emails, and tightening knots in my stomach. Harlan had taken my evidence straight to HR and the company's legal team. I didn't know if they'd act fast enough, but I wasn't going to sit and wait for Marianne to make her move. If she wanted public, I'd give her public. I booked a private conference room at work and invited every person she'd been in contact with: Claire, the 2 other managers, even Paul and the former employees from the group call. Then I asked Daniel to be there. I told him, if you're going to know the truth, you need to hear everything. When the room filled, I hit play on a single video file I'd prepared, a tight, edited sequence of Marianne's sabotage. The footage of her snooping on my laptop, the audio of her instructing Claire, the diary reading at the dinner table, the call logs, emails, and the spreadsheet of other victims. Gasps rippled through the room. Claire went pale. One of the managers muttered, "Oh my God." Daniel stared at the screen like he'd been punched. When it ended, he turned to his mother. "Tell me this isn't real." Marianne's voice was sharp, desperate now. "They're lying. This is a setup." Paul stood. "She said the same thing about me when she ruined my career. You all believed her then. Look where it got you." Harlan stepped forward. "Based on the evidence and corroborating accounts, we'll be initiating legal action. Effective immediately, Claire and the other named parties are suspended. And as for you, Mrs. White," he didn't finish. Security had already stepped in to escort her out. Marianne didn't look at anyone but me as they led her away. Her glare wasn't just hate, it was a promise. But for the first time, it was her being walked out, not me. After the room emptied, Daniel stayed behind. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "I should have believed you sooner." I didn't say anything. Some wounds didn't close with an apology. Later that evening, HR confirmed the company was pursuing charges for corporate sabotage and defamation. Several of Marianne's allies had flipped, providing even more evidence. Her network was crumbling. Standing in my office the next morning, sunlight pouring over my desk, I felt something I hadn't in months. Freedom. The war was over, and I had won.